The Euphrates River, as mentioned in the scriptures, is recognized as one of the most important waterways of antiquity. This river has witnessed countless historical events and holds secrets that continue to defy human understanding. However, it is currently facing a serious crisis. Its flow decreases significantly every year, impacting several communities in Western Asia that depend on its waters for survival. The most alarming thing is that the countries through which the Euphrates flows don't seem to be taking this situation seriously enough. In some cases, they even implement policies that make it difficult for the river to recover. But what if I told you that this desiccation is not only an environmental crisis, but also a possible sign of events prophesied for the end times? The book of Revelation contains hidden revelations that warn us about the fate of the Euphrates. Is the drying up of this river a harbinger of the imminent arrival of the Antichrist? What mysteries are hidden in its dwindling waters? And what will be the fate of humanity if this river disappears completely? These questions lead us to reflect on the depth of the connections between the present and ancient prophecies, and on how we are dealing with one of history's most emblematic and sacred natural resources. In this video, we'll delve into Revelation's surprising revelations about the future of the Euphrates River, linking it directly to Armageddon, the final battle between Jesus Christ and the forces of Satan. Before you go any further, remember to like this video and subscribe to our channel, Wisdom. Activate the notification bell so you don't miss out on any new and interesting content we publish. Let's get started. The Euphrates River is one of the most important and ancient rivers in the world, with a rich history deeply intertwined with the development of several ancient civilizations. Originating in the mountains of Turkey, the Euphrates flows south through Syria and Iraq, before joining the Tigris and flowing into the Persian Gulf. Approximately 2,800 kilometers long, it is one of the largest rivers in Western Asia. The Euphrates played a key role in the development of Mesopotamian civilizations such as Sumer, Babylon, and Assyria. The region between the Euphrates and the Tigris is known as the cradle of civilization. Its historically fertile basin enabled agriculture and trade, which facilitated the emergence of powerful cities and states. In the Bible, the Euphrates River occupies a significant place in both the Old and New Testaments. In chapter 2 of the book of Genesis, the Euphrates is described as one of the rivers that irrigated the Garden of Eden. Its waters passed through the region designated by God as the dwelling place of Adam and Eve, as well as all the creatures he created at the beginning of time. This biblical connection gives the Euphrates not only historical but also spiritual importance, being a symbol of life and a sacred past. As we explore the fate of the Euphrates, we will understand how its drying may be related to the prophecies of the end times. What mysteries are hidden in its waning waters? Is the drying up of the Euphrates a sign of the imminent arrival of the Antichrist and Armageddon? Join us on this journey of discovery and reflection on the role of this millennia-old river in the divine plan and the future of humanity. Later in the biblical narrative, the Euphrates River was designated by God as one of the boundaries of the Promised Land, a vast expanse of land that he promised to Abraham and his descendants as an eternal inheritance. In Genesis 15 verse 18, we read, "On that day the Lord made a covenant with Abraham, saying, 'To your descendants I will give this land, from the river of Egypt to the great river, the river Euphrates.'" The river Euphrates is a vital source of drinking water for millions of people in the regions it runs through. Its waters not only irrigate vast agricultural fields, but are also used to generate electricity through hydroelectric dams, providing power for more than 1 million families. This river, therefore, is not only a natural resource, but also an essential pillar for the survival and prosperity of diverse communities. However, what was a prosperous and fertile region for many centuries is now turning into a scene of fear and uncertainty, as its main source of water is disappearing at an alarming rate. Iranian authorities responsible for monitoring the situation of the Euphrates have reported that over the last 3 years, the rainy season in the region has started later and earlier than usual. This climate change has caused a drastic decrease in the volume of water in the river, and in some stretches, the bed of the Euphrates has dried up completely. The transformation of this vital artery of life into a dry riverbed reflects a profound environmental crisis that threatens not only the local ecosystem, but also the communities that depend on its waters for survival. Amid the arid riverbeds of the Euphrates, a disturbing video has gone viral on the internet, showing what many interpret as the screams of demons echoing in a region that was once filled with the river's waters. This disturbing video, captured amid the desolation of what was once a powerful stream, has left thousands of people terrified. The images and sounds, which some describe as spectral and supernatural, have rekindled ancient fears about the fate of this historic watercourse. The current situation of the Euphrates River not only highlights an environmental and humanitarian crisis, but also raises profound questions about ancient prophecies and the events that may be unfolding before our eyes. As the river continues to dry up, we are called to reflect on our role in preserving the planet and to consider the spiritual and historical implications of this worrying phenomenon. The spread of this video has intensified panic in a region already devastated by the Euphrates environmental crisis, generating a wave of anxiety and speculation about whether these phenomena could be signs of darker events to come. Some interpretations suggest that the noises captured on the video could be the voices of the four fallen angels, who, according to biblical tradition, are imprisoned by God until the prophecy in chapter 9 of Revelation is fulfilled. In this passage, it is described how these angels will be released to unleash plagues and calamities on humanity, an event that will precede the final judgment and the definitive confrontation between good and evil in the last days. Dear listener, it is important to clarify that, although there is a theory about the terrible noises in the Euphrates River which maintains that they could be the sound of the four fallen angels imprisoned by God, we cannot say with certainty that these noises are real or that they come from these specific demons, as there is no concrete evidence to confirm this. However, what happens at the Euphrates always generates great concern because of its significant role in biblical prophecy. History and the scriptures teach us that any event related to this river can have profound implications, which is why this phenomenon arouses so much curiosity and apprehension. Now, with regard to the drought suffered by the Euphrates River, a group of scientists argues that the problem is not exclusively due to climate change, but also to the poor management of water resources by the governments of the countries through which the river flows. These experts say that inadequate policies and a lack of coordination between countries have intensified the river crisis, aggravating the reduction in its flow and further complicating the situation. Some argue that the countries that share the Euphrates may have secret reasons for wishing for its total disappearance, although the precise reasons for this supposed intention have yet to be clarified. Mismanagement and unsustainable use of water resources have contributed significantly to the current crisis, and this raises serious questions about the management of natural resources and the urgent need for international cooperation to save this important watercourse. Against this backdrop, the combination of climate change, mismanagement, and possible hidden intentions paints an alarming picture for the future of the Euphrates and the communities that depend on it. What was once a powerful and vital river is becoming a symbol of crisis and uncertainty, with profound ecological, social, and spiritual repercussions. These theories suggest that hidden interests or unknown agendas may be behind the drying up of the Euphrates, allowing and perhaps even promoting its desertification. But what would humanity gain from turning such an essential river into a desert? What are the possible hidden interests of the leaders who could be orchestrating this devastating drought? The key may lie in biblical prophecy, which states that the disappearance of the Euphrates is a prelude to Armageddon, the definitive confrontation between Jesus Christ and the forces of evil at the end of time. In the New Testament, the Euphrates is mentioned in the book of Revelation, which deals with the end of time and the final fulfillment of God's promises. In this context, the Euphrates plays a crucial role in several apocalyptic visions. One of the most significant events related to the river Euphrates in the book of Revelation is its exhaustion, a phenomenon that has profound implications in the context of Christian eschatology. In Revelation 16 verse 12, we read, "The sixth angel poured out his bowl on the great river Euphrates, and its waters dried up so that the way might be prepared for the kings of the east." In the ancient world, large rivers represented significant obstacles for armies in the field, as floods often delayed crossing until bridges or rafts were built. These rivers, like the Euphrates, were natural barriers that could slow down war movements and complicate military strategies. However, in the apocalyptic vision described, God predicts that the army approaching Armageddon will not face such delays. In the biblical narrative, the Euphrates is mentioned 5 times as the Great River, a title that underlines its geographical and symbolic importance. This event, occurring in times of tribulation, unlike the previous 5 bowls, does not imply a specific attack on humanity, but is preparatory for what is to come. The drought of the Euphrates, therefore, is not just an environmental crisis. It also carries a prophetic and symbolic weight that arouses curiosity and apprehension among the faithful. The depletion of this river is seen as a clear sign of the fulfillment of biblical prophecies and an indication of the proximity of the final events described in the book of Revelation. This intersection between natural events and biblical prophecies raises many questions about the times we live in and how we are dealing with natural resources. It is a call to reflect on our environmental and spiritual responsibility and on the possible implications of these drastic changes in the sacred landscape of the river Euphrates. When his turn came, the 6th angel poured his bowl into the great river Euphrates. The Euphrates had already been mentioned earlier in Revelation in relation to the judgment of the 6th trumpet. In Revelation 9 verse 14, we read, saying to the 6th angel who had the trumpet, "Release the 4 angels who are bound by the great river Euphrates." These 4 fallen angels, mentioned as being bound by the river Euphrates, are the basis for many of the videos circulating today claiming to capture voices of demons in the area. When the 6th bowl is poured out, the Euphrates will be drastically different from what it is today or what it has always been. The scorching heat of the sun, associated with the 4th bowl, will melt the snow in the tops of Mount Ararat, enormously increasing the volume of water in the Euphrates and causing great damage and flooding along its course. The bridges that cross the river will inevitably be destroyed, and this reveals the purpose of the 6th bowl. When the angel poured out his bowl, the water of the Euphrates dried up so that the way could be prepared for the kings of the east. These eastern armies will need to cross the Euphrates to reach their final destination, Armageddon, in the land of Israel. God drying up the Euphrates is not an act of kindness towards the kings of the east, but an act of punishment. They and their armies will fall into a deadly trap. The evaporation of the Euphrates will lead to their destruction, just as the splitting of the Red Sea led to the destruction of the Egyptian army. The question today is whether the drought affecting the Euphrates is the product of divine intervention. With the drought, many wonder if we are witnessing the prophesied signs of the end times. The reduction in the flow of the Euphrates can be interpreted as a fulfillment of biblical prophecies, which warn of the events that will precede Armageddon. This connection between biblical events and natural phenomena generates intense debate and reflection. Are we observing a coincidence of environmental and spiritual circumstances that suggests divine intervention? Or is it simply the result of climate change and poor water management? Whatever the answer, the current state of the Euphrates serves as a powerful reminder of the fragility of our natural resources and the urgent need to look after them responsibly. The apocalyptic narrative of the Euphrates leads us to reflect on the impact of human actions on the environment and to consider the possible spiritual implications of these drastic changes. Whether as a sign of the end times or as a consequence of our own mistakes, the state of the river Euphrates is a call to action and reflection on our role as guardians of the planet and as spiritual beings living in an interconnected and fragile world. Although we can't know for sure whether the drought of the Euphrates is due exclusively to climate change, we can't rule out the possibility of divine intervention as a way of warning about the fulfillment of His word. Bible prophecy indicates that, in times of great tribulation, God will dry up this river for a specific purpose. In the 16th chapter of Revelation, verses 13 and 14, we are told, "I saw 3 unclean spirits, like frogs, coming out of the mouth of the dragon, out of the mouth of the beast, and out of the mouth of the false prophet. For they are spirits of demons who perform signs and go to the kings of the earth, throughout the world to gather them for the battle of that great day of God Almighty. After the river Euphrates dried up by divine intervention, John witnessed a grotesque vision, like something out of a horror movie. He saw 3 unclean, toad-like spirits coming out of the mouths of the dragon, the beast, and the false prophet. The mouth, symbolizing the source of influence of each member of the diabolical trinity, Satan, the Antichrist, and the false prophet, spewed out an unclean, frog-like spirit. Although frogs were considered unclean animals under Mosaic law, John identified these apparitions as spirits of demons, not literal frogs. This graphic illustration portrays the merciless wickedness of these demons. The fraudulent satanic trinity is made up of demonic spirits who, by performing miracles and deceptive signs, seek to manipulate and deceive the rulers of the world. These spirits aim to seduce the leaders and bring them to a final and decisive confrontation on the great day of Almighty God. Their strategy is to use these deceptions to rally the nations and lead them into an apocalyptic battle, thus subverting the divine order and challenging God's sovereignty. During the Great Tribulation, the rulers of the nations will be demon-possessed, deceived by Satan through miracles. These leaders will enter into an insane plan that will plunge the whole world into a great holocaust. Finally, the battle will take place at Armageddon. The word Armageddon is mentioned in the Bible only once, and its literal meaning is Mount Megiddo. This term evokes a powerful image, since Megiddo is a historic and strategic site, located to the south of the Jezreel Plain in Israel. Megiddo has been the scene of many significant battles throughout history, and its mention in the book of Revelation suggests a final and decisive confrontation. Armageddon symbolizes the final clash between the forces of good and evil, an event that will culminate in God's victory and the restoration of divine order. The drying up of the Euphrates, therefore, is not just a natural or environmental event, but an intrinsic part of the eschatological narrative that sets the stage for the final denouement of time. Throughout ancient history, Megiddo was the scene of great military battles, adding a layer of historical depth to the concept of Armageddon. In the book of Revelation, Armageddon is presented as the scene of the final battle between the forces of good, led by Christ, and the forces of evil, represented by the Antichrist. This confrontation is described as the climax of a series of apocalyptic events that precede the end of the world and the establishment of a new divine order. The vision of Armageddon in this context is not just a representation of a physical conflict, but an allegory of the spiritual battle between justice and corruption, divine order and chaos. In the dramatic climax of the final battle, Christ is revealed as the victorious Redeemer as he defeats the Antichrist, the false prophet, and the kings who have joined forces in a last attempt to challenge the divine kingdom. This final confrontation is more than just a clash. It is the decisive moment that will determine the fate of the world. The Antichrist, who has been the leader of the forces of evil and the agent of spiritual corruption, and the false prophet, who has deceived the multitudes and fomented rebellion against God, confront Christ in a battle that will define the future of humanity. In addition, the kings of the nations and their mighty armies, who have followed the Antichrist in his fight against the divine order, come together in this epic conflict. This event symbolizes not only the definitive defeat of evil, but also the establishment of a new era of peace and justice, where evil is eradicated and good triumphs irrevocably. Christ's victory in this final battle marks the beginning of a new chapter in human history, where a kingdom of peace and equity is established under his sovereignty. Dear listeners, we find ourselves in prophetic times of great significance and challenge. It is crucial that we remain firm in our faith and spiritual commitment. In these days of rapid change and turbulence, it is more important than ever to be alert, to keep watch in constant prayer, and to maintain a life of faithfulness and holiness. This period not only calls us to be spiritually prepared, but also to be living witnesses of hope and divine love in a world in need. It is a call to renew our commitment to the ethical and moral principles that guide us, to be light in the midst of darkness, and to remain faithful at every step of the journey we face together. May this time find us united in the search for truth and peace, strengthened by our faith and ready to face the challenges with courage and trust in the transforming power of divine love. And so we come to the end of this video. Thank you for being part of our channel. God bless you abundantly. See you in the next video.